Hey doc, I think I've got an ear infection. Antibiotics are a wonderful medicine when dealing with bacterial infections, but unfortunately they're sometimes misused.
My car is making this funny sound. Chooka 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 chooka.
When antibiotics are misused, it can lead to them suddenly not working anymore. And if you ask folks like Richard Dawkins and Bill Nye the Science Guy, the answer is that this is incontrovertible proof of evolution right before our very eyes. It's an evolutionary arms race, they say. As our weapons of medical warfare get stronger and more sophisticated, so too the bugs we're fighting are getting stronger. They're evolving better defenses, making them immune to the best we can throw at them. The power of natural selection and random mutation laughs at our incompetent medical prowess. Bacterial evolution and antibiotic resistance is one of the all-time greatest hits regarding evidence for evolution. And it's true that antibiotics do sometimes stop working. And antibiotic resistance is a form of evolution, narrowly speaking. But is this a demonstration of the creative power of Darwinian evolution, or is there something else going on? Let's take a look more closely. Let's get to know these bacteria killers we affectionately call antibiotics. How do they keep us alive? Where do they come from? What's their favorite kind of ice cream? There's a lot of ways for antibiotics to defeat bacteria. Some explode it. Some gum up the works. Some starve the little bugs out. Others prevent them from multiplying, and so on. But there's essentially only one or two ways that bacteria can become resistant to antibiotics. The first and most common way bacteria gain resistance is that it's always been there. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria actually pre-exist the invention of modern antibiotics. There's an interesting story of some Arctic explorers from back in the 1800s. Turns out they froze to death before the discovery and use of antibiotics. Some morbid scientists found them recently and took samples of their gut bacteria and found that they already had resistance to some of our most powerful modern antibiotics. Just like some people are naturally short and immune to limbo bars, some bacteria naturally have a pre-existing resistance to antibiotics. Not because they've gained this ability after an encounter with the antibiotic, but it's just always been the case. That said, bacteria do have a neat special ability that short people don't have. They love to share. Not just cooking recipes and financial advice, but super personal things like their very own DNA. They'll swap loops of DNA called plasmids in a process called horizontal gene transfer, or HGT. Like third graders with Pokemon cards, they have no idea how they got them or even what they do, but they'll trade them back and forth, and occasionally, they'll share these resistance genes. Nothing new has been made or evolved though. Bacteria already had the ability to trade plasmids, and the genes for resistance already existed before antibiotics. This is hardly an arms race, and it's not a demonstration of Darwinian creative power, since there's no new mutations and no new genes that have been made. Not only that, but these extra resistance genes are frequently a net negative on fitness. Bacteria with extra useless genes tend to be less fit than regular old vanilla bugs. Imagine you're in a foot race. You usually don't need a duffel bag filled with camping supplies, a pickaxe, spare bowling balls, and a weed whacker during your typical foot race. If you do, great. Otherwise, it's a huge waste of energy lugging all of that stuff around, and it makes you less competitive. Bacteria with extra genetic load tend to be less fit than regular old vanilla bugs.
What about mutations though?
This is the second less common, but more interesting way that bacteria develop resistance to antibiotics. How does it work? Scientists are aware of pre-existing resistance. So to exclude it as a possibility in experiments, they can start with a single normal, non-resistant bacteria and let that multiply over and over again, and eventually the bacteria population can still develop resistance on its own. Here's how. When copying their DNA, organisms are pretty accurate and mutations are relatively rare, but given enough time, errors do sneak in, like typos or autocorrect when you're texting someone. Sometimes they're no big deal and you can get along in spite of them. But sometimes these mutations really do something and can confer resistance or even immunity to antibiotics. Amazing, that must demonstrate the mighty power of evolution. Well, hold your horses. It's sort of like someone who has no arms saying that they're immune to handcuffs. No legs? You're immune to toenail fungus. No teeth? Congratulations, you're immune to cavities. Think of how much you'll save on toothpaste and floss expenses. Deaf and blind? You're immune to getting annoying songs stuck in your head. Wow. This poor soul might technically be immune to those things in a perverse way, but it comes at a cost. He's hardly a more fit organism, and these mutated bacteria are just hobbled, busted up versions of the original. Darwinian evolution can't get very far by breaking things. Eventually, it'll run out of things to break. And in reality, when antibiotics are removed from the environment, these superbugs just sort of die out, because without the help of the antibiotics keeping the stronger, normal bacteria at bay, they can't compete and they die out. Those are the two ways that bacteria can resist antibiotics.